Dying to Yhorm Gundyr causes you to leave your bloodstain in his arena. However, if you can manage to beat him, the Dancer, and Osiris, all without dying, and make your way through the illusory walls into the untended graves, you can actually find your bloodstain and champion Gundyr's arena. This works vice versa, and you can also loot the covetous silver serpent ring in the rafters by using the tree jump back here, though the tower used to climb up legitimately is blocked off. This works because the game internally considers the Cemetery of Ash and the untended graves to be the same location. You can see this by no-clipping up into the rocks to Osiris' boss room. After a save and quit, walking through the illusory walls will spit you back out into the untended graves, showing that the only thing that determines whether you arrive in the Cemetery of Ash or untended graves is how you get there. Anyway, Yhorm Gundyr can be parried in a second phase, and has a unique death animation if you do so and kill him with it. In the high wall, there's a hollow who will climb up to ambush you after picking up this Titanite shard. But it seems the majority of the time you go there, he somehow dies before he can attack you. I think this happens if you walk by these hollows before going over to him, for whatever reason. While fighting the Dancer, you may notice that the room starts to be set on fire after her second phase where she powers up. You can actually set the room alight yourself if you want, with basically any fire attack before or after your fight with her. Also, strangely, using some weapons R2 attacks, like the Black Knight axes on the carpet here, will just cause you to recoil back. Dealing enough poise damage to her head will cause her to be vulnerable to riposte, and if you kill her with a riposte, she'll actually have a unique death animation. There are a ton of bosses with unique death animations like this, so I'll mention the more interesting ones throughout the video, like good old Vort here. Again, doing enough poise damage to his head will leave him open to a riposte and a unique death animation. Just after taking care of him, you can see a huge amount of the game when looking down this cliff. And, of course, after landing, you can see a bunch of locations too. My favorite being the giant who shoots at you from on top of the tower in the distance. Speaking of the giant, you can... What the? An invader? I thought it was in offline mode. What does that say? Data harvester? Oh, dang it! If only I had some way to protect myself when I was connected to public Wi-Fi. Oh. Wait, who is that? NordVPN? No way! That's right, folks. I've partnered with NordVPN for today's video. The internet is huge, and can be quite the dangerous place if you're unprepared. But fortunately, NordVPN is your one-stop shop for protection from all sorts of online threats. Anything ranging from evil data harvesters like this guy, intercepting and manipulating your data, phishing emails, DDoS attacks, malware, ransomware, and much more. If you head to nordvpn.com/starrun, you can get the best possible deal that they offer, with 4 bonus months added extra when purchasing a 2-year plan. That's 28 months for those of you counting. On top of that, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if it's not for you, you can get your money back, easy peasy. If you don't want to end up like this guy, go to nordvpn.com/starrun and get a 2-year plan, ASAP. Again, that's nordvpn.com/starrun, folks. What was I talking about? Oh yeah. Speaking of the giant, you can actually use him to cheese Hodrick from a safe spot during the run up to the curse-rotted Greatwood. All you have to do is bait him into getting hit by an arrow that's aimed for you, and if you go far enough away, you'll just stand there like a moron while getting shot. Using the black bow of Pharos' weapon art with dark arrows will make all 3 arrows converge at one point. With any other arrow, it just fires a spread shot. The curse-rotted Greatwood has a lot of strange attacks, like it throwing its fruit at you. Or this belly flop it does in its second phase. Killing him in this state will result in a unique death animation. In Dark Souls 2, there's a bunch of items that spawn already somewhat reinforced when picked up. But in Dark Souls 3, there's only one, not counting rings. This hanging corpse holds a blessed red and white shield +1 when shot down. This is the only source of the item, so it's actually impossible to legitimately obtain a base, level 0 version of the shield. Velka's statue has a visible brooch, but its model is too low quality to see any real detail on it. However, some concept art from the art book will reveal that the symbol on her brooch is the same as the symbol of the Mask of Velka in Dark Souls 1 and the Mask of Judgment from Dark Souls 2. The latter mask's description reads as follows. A mask honoring an ancient goddess. Sin was said to be her domain, but the name of the goddess is long forgotten. Oswald of Karim from Dark Souls 1 and Cromwell the Pardoner from Dark Souls 2 both wear this helmet. Combining certain armor pieces will cause a hood to be pulled up over your head. For example, the Sorcerer robes will add a hood to the Elite Knight's helm, Executioner helm, Assassin's hood, and the Old Sage's blindfold. Jumping on the giant crabs here in the swamp will cause them to immediately stagger, leaving them vulnerable for riposte. You can also riposte them for free when they play the animation for this attack. And you can parry them. The Crystal Sage isn't actually completely hollow. You can see this if you look closely at his face. It turns out he's just some bald asshole. The Sage's Crystal Staff's description reveals crystal spheres devour the will of the user, which is probably what we're seeing here based on his hands and face. Also, it's worth noting that while the Crystal Sage here wields a crystal rapier, the one in the archives uses a plain old estoc, and that the Sage in the Grand Archives isn't just a copy or something. It seems like it's actually his twin, according to the Soul of a Crystal Sage's description. Anyway, some of you may know that he has a melee attack that's parryable, but he also has a unique death animation if you kill him with a riposte. So you can skip his second phase altogether by simply using Sacred Flame to stunlock him. This also works on his brother in the Grand Archives, but you can use Pestilent Mist to prevent him from teleporting as well, though this doesn't work on the actual Crystal Sage in the Crucifixion Woods for some reason. Finally, he also has a grab attack, which comes at the end of a melee combo sometimes. Each of Rosaria's fingers that invade you correspond to a previous entry in the Soulsborne series. Yellowfinger Hazel has the Xanthus crown equipped, evoking the old monk from Demon Souls. Longfinger Kirk is basically ripped straight out of Dark Souls 1. Kraton the Wanderer is basically ripped straight out of Dark Souls 2. And Ringfinger Leonhard, who not only looks like he's from Bloodborne, but also calls you a starved beast.
I see, as clear as day. You are a vile, starved beast.
And uses a weapon resembling the moon. Running along this railway in the Cathedral of the Deep will cause Patches to trap you down near this giant. However, if you kill the giant before he has the chance to get you, he has some unique dialogue.
Where's the old giant? What? Where's the bloody giant? Just what have you done? How dare you? Have you no shame? Damn, 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 and damn, damn, damn.
what a dipshit. The Deacon with red eyes that drops the deep ring is completely docile towards the player and mutters under his breath, which is only really audible when standing next to him. The Dark Wraith's Dark Sword texture has an error on its hilt that isn't visible on the players. It's a relatively common piece of trivia that you can remove the stray demon's legs, but you can actually riposte him afterwards, resulting in this animation if it kills him. Using either the Handmaid's Dagger or just a plain old dagger in your left hand will put it in a unique grip and change its moveset. This can be mildly useful as a roll catch or a mix-up in PvP. From Henri's perch above the bridge just before Wolnir, you can clearly see Horus if you simply look down. Are they stupid or what? You can stagger and riposte the old Demon King by hitting him in the head a bunch. Killing him with it will just result in his normal death animation. But he does have another one if you kill him while he's in this weakened state using his weapon as support. Also, the crossbow that fires here can break parts of the floor, revealing a hole that leads into the demon ruins. The bow skeletons in the catacombs have a melee attack where they use their arrows to hit you. Using Pestilent Mist, or just killing him through any means that aren't his bracelets, Wolnir will have a unique death animation. Normally after shattering his bracelets, he'll just be pulled into the abyss. But with this, it looks like we actually kill him. If you use
Pestilent Mist,
you can actually kill him without even aggroing him. On the bridge to Irithyll, you'll encounter one of Aldrich's holy beasts. It's a relatively common piece of trivia that if you stagger and riposte them without killing them, they'll flail around for a while until they relax and start praying. However, if you simply ignore it and just run past it, you'll actually encounter it again down in the lake, just before the Irithyll dungeon. Pontiff has a unique death animation if you kill him with a riposte. The Irithyll dungeon and the profaned capital below it is home to some of the strangest enemies in the franchise, as well as one of the most annoying, these jailers. But they actually have one of the worst, or at least stupidest, AIs in the game. Firstly, they can only drain your HP if you're in their direct line of sight. So if you're only dealing with 1 or 2, this can be completely negated by literally just standing behind them. The Wretch is a favorite of mine in these dungeons, especially this first one, who just holds onto a wall all dramatically and doesn't aggro towards the player ever, even after hitting it. Going below the dungeons into the profaned capital, you'll eventually come across the Abominations of Sin. These guys are awesome. They're basically big, disgusting babies. But their face, I guess, is covered in these growths that also cover Manus' hand, which is easily visible in the cutscene where he grabs you to take you to the DLC in Dark Souls 1. Also, using a throwing knife when they stand to do this attack will immediately stagger them and leave them open for a riposte. Just before coming across these guys, you'll come across this room, where there's a bunch of rats that continually spawn and this giant prisoner. There's actually a limited number of rats that can spawn. Same with the reanimated corpses, just before the cathedral and the graveyard. They'll respawn for a while, but you'll eventually wipe them out. One of my favorite areas in the game is just outside of this room that contains 3 of the cute little guys. Oh, aren't you just precious, man? It's just a simple, secluded poison swamp that I feel players mostly skip in favor of going straight to Yhorm. The only real items worth noting are the Eleonora that this monstrosity drops, and the Cursebite ring, which all things considered, is pretty useless. There really isn't anything else going on down here. Just a couple of sewer centipedes chilling in the poison, and a handful of consumables, but it's funny to think that sick freak Miyazaki couldn't help but put another swamp in the game in one of the final areas. This area reminds me a lot of the small ridge just after fighting the Havel Knight in the Archdragon Peak. Dropping off the ledge to the left here leads to only a single enemy, though there is the Great Magic Barrier spell here, so this is probably a little more common. I really cannot overstate how much I love tiny nooks like these in games. The giant serpent man at the end of the Ancient Wyvern's fight is a huge jackass. Most people probably run past it and rarely fight them, but they're actually parryable, interestingly enough. User Dora Nora DTD on Reddit pointed out the bell here used to bring in the storm and the Nameless King with it was likely modeled after a traditional Russian Orthodox bell. Not only that, but it seems some of the Cyrillic inscribed on the source made its way into the game, with the word blaga or good in English being, decently recognizable. Typically in the real world, these will say something like
Рождением благочестивого раба Божия Владимира,
or thanks to the devotional spirit of God Vladimir in English. Unfortunately, I think blaga is the only word that's readable on the bell in the game. The Nameless King's lightning strike attack can be easily avoided by simply turning the camera away from him. The Nameless King also has a unique death animation when dying to a riposte. After progressing Hawkwood's questline, you can eventually find him in the Abyss Watcher's arena, challenging you to a duel for your Dragonstone. There's a couple of possible lines of dialogue he can give. This is what most players will hear.
This is unexpected. Well, I've decided to stop running from my fate. Loathe me all you like. I shall take what makes you dragon.
However, if you summon him for Osiris's boss, he'll give you this line of dialogue.
I should have known. Well, I've decided to stop running from my fate. Loathe me all you like. I shall take what makes you dragon.
Also, it's worth mentioning here that he can be found outside of Firelink Shrine, mourning by this grave sometimes. It's the same grave where you find the Hornet Ring and the Untended Graves. If you return to Osiris's arena after killing the Drakeblood Knight summoned by this guy in Archdragon Peak, you can find the Drakeblood set on this corpse. It's pretty easy to miss. I'd imagine a lot of players just kill Osiris and go straight to Untended Graves, never coming back. Champion Gundyr also has a unique death animation if killed after a riposte. Yhorm is pretty large compared to the player. But compared to some of the other giants in the game, like the ones in the cathedral, is actually pretty small. This is likely because he's only a descendant of giants, and not a proper one. You can also see this in his face, which is visible in Siegward's cutscene, or by using a free cam. It's distinctly human when compared to other giants. Anyway, Yhorm also has a unique death animation if you kill him with a riposte instead of something like the Storm Ruler's special attack. There's actually two types of mimics in this game. There's the more common ones, who run around on two legs and kick you like the mimics from Dark Souls 1, and these crouching guys who crawl around and lunge at you like Dark Souls 2. If you attempt to open the former, you'll just get grabbed, of course. But if you open the latter, you'll actually have an opportunity to roll away before they grab you. If you only deal damage to the Dragon Slayer armor using Pestilent Mist, you can skip its second phase entirely. Dragon Slayer armor is the only boss in the game vulnerable to being parried, guard broken, and poise broken, though it can't be riposted at all. Its helm also bears teeth, similar to Ornstein's from Dark Souls 1, but it has a big ol' evil grin on his face, unlike Ornstein, who more just looks like he's scowling. Typically when entering the Twin Princes fight, Lorien will immediately teleport to you. However, if you stand still after entering the fog instead, he'll teleport in place and then crawl towards you. In their second phase, Lothric will come down and join the fight, but they'll also kind of ember up. This actually happens with all of the Lords of Cinder, where their skin will get the ember texture, and they'll have fire damage added to their attacks. I'm sure many players noticed the first notes of Gwyn's theme in the second phase of the Soul of Cinder's fight. Something that's much more subtle though, would be the first notes in the initial phase of the fight. It's actually the same notes as Firelink Shrine's theme in Dark Souls 1. While we're here, the Soul of Cinder's death animation is the same as Gwyn's. You'll also have a unique death animation if he kills you with wait, what the hell? I really like the Corvian Knights in the Painted World. Their design is so sick, just ridiculously edgy, and their stupid aura farm ass stances they constantly hit. It just rocks. Their attack spam can be annoying though, but fortunately, with decent timing, dealing damage with literally any equipable weapon during a certain window of some of their attacks will result in them recoiling back like they were staggered, and leave them open to a riposte. This doesn't work with something like throwing knives for some reason, even though they do the same poise damage as wooden arrows, which do work. If you've obtained 5 dark sigils through Yhorm, Fried and Wilhelm will both refer to you as Lord of
Hollows.
Your Lady Uria's Lord of Hollows.
Seemeth not, Lord of Hollows. I know not the missteps which led thee to this painted world.
If you speak with Yuria after killing her sister, Fried, she'll give you this dialogue.
Might that soul be... Nay, never mind. It belongs to a woman from Londor. To provide succor for the Lord of Hollows surely would bring her much honor. In return, thou needst only do her a small kindness. Remember those who stayed by her to the end, in the shadows cast by fire.
You may know about this friendly Corvian in the Painted World. After killing Sister Fried, he'll move outside, stating that he can hear the crackling from here.
Oh, my, thank you. I can hear the crackling from here. The sound of my home. The painting of Ariandel. Burning away.
Following his line of sight will reveal that he's staring up at the chapel, watching it burn. The circle you land on after the first plunge in the drag heap is actually a miracle circle. Lap is one of my favorite characters in the entire franchise. Before he restores his humanity, he's one of the player's only glimmers of hope at the end of the world. A kindred spirit who, by all means, should be pretty miserable, but is generally pretty positive. He'll even help the player out if you speak to him at the Earthen Peak ruins by telling you about a Titanite slab in the swamp.
There's precious treasure in the thick of the swamp. I didn't have any use for it.
Or just going to get it for you if you reload the area 3 times. My favorite thing about him though, is how if you let him get the slab for you, after killing the Demon Prince, you'll find a Siegbrow where you last spoke to him. What a great guy. This is a pretty well known one, but just after killing the Demon Princes, the tunnel you go down to enter the Ranged City is the same place that Frampt or Kath comes out of in Dark Souls 1. The entire fight takes place in a dilapidated Firelink Shrine actually. There's another miracle circle here too, and these freaks' attacks also leave a miracle circle below your feet, but I'm jumping ahead a bit here. Once you've properly entered the Ringed City, returning back to the chapel where you fought Fried will reveal that this floor has also been set on fire, whereas before it was just her arena. This is another pretty well known one, but I would be remiss to not mention that as you're entering the ringed city, you can see Midir peeking around this tower. Later on, when you approach the bridge he defends, this is actually the area he flies from before your encounter with him. Using a white branch or the chameleon spell in the swamp in the ringed city can transform you into humanity from Dark Souls 1. And using this, if you approach this wall by the bonfire, a ladder will drop. Following the path leads to a couple items, and eventually the Purging Monument, which can be used to absolve you of sin, reverse your hollowing from the Dark Sigils, or revive the Judicator Argo boss fight. This is, of course, required for completing Lap's questline, so it's pretty well known. However, you can actually see him staring at the Purging Monument he's searching for partway through his questline, at the step where he gives you another Siegbrow. What a dipshit. The statues found in the gates of Filianore's cathedral are identical to the statues found in Pontiff Sullivan's arena. Before touching Filianore's shell, you can see her breathing. But after touching it, seems like you kill her and she becomes noticeably more hollow. Yeah, nice one, man. The cutscene that plays before Gael's fight starts has this pretty clear reference to Artorias' cutscene from Dark Souls 1, but thematically, there are a few key differences. In Dark Souls 1, it's Artorias, one of the strongest, most decorated knights in history, flinging an unknown Ulasilian at you. In Dark Souls 3, it's Gael, a lowly slave knight who flings a pygmy lord at you. Using a weapon that has decent range, if you hit Gael's head with enough poise damage, you can stagger and riposte him. Killing him with a riposte will cause this to happen. I really love the area this fight takes place in. It's my favorite area in the game. It's the end of the world and it's just you and him, fighting on top of a mountain of ash. Well, and a ring knight. And Shira too, what the hell? Ruining my LARP. Whatever. I actually really like how they put more than just a boss fight in this arena. It feels really unique and sticks out in my mind as one of the few times From put something like this in a boss's arena. Well, that's all I got. Thank you for watching.